Okay, so somehow we're going to start, and today we have a fourth Advent, so basically the last Sunday before Christmas, and we have a very Christmassy verse, Isaiah 7, and we all know Isaiah 7:14. I mean, that's almost probably by heart with many people, but the whole passage is Isaiah 7:10 to 17. And that's kind of important. Before we'll go into the text, we'll talk about some words. We need to know the history. So first of all, the text starts with the phrase, "Again the Lord spoke to Ahaz." Okay, we kind of know who Lord is, more or less. But the Ahaz is the guy who was the king in Judea. So we are in the times of, if we are in Isaiah, of course we are in about 8th century BC or BCE. So depending of the scholarly school you are following, we are, Ahaz is most likely ruled from 736 to 716 BC. Okay? There is another dating, 748 to 728 BC. And I personally prefer this one. My simple reason is at 722 Samaria falls. Okay, so Samaria is the capital of Northern Kingdom. Remember, we used to have a good and great Israel kingdom under Saul, then it was even bigger under David, then it was really great under Solomon. And under Solomon, not everything was under control of Israel, but his influence, if we read the Bible, the way the Bible is written, the Solomon's influence, was from modern or present Ethiopia to India. Okay? Again, he did not subdue everything. He had relationship, he had some trade agreements. I don't want to compare it to NATO, but something like a one alliance. Okay? Then his son, with one dumb decision, broke everything apart. Okay? So from this kind of huge territory, we shrink, our influence shrinks into two relatively small South Kingdom and the North Kingdom. Okay? So when we think of the importance or non-importance of decisions of political leaders, that's kind of an example. When you have one not smart decision and whatever was gained in the previous years or even decades, or I would even say the hundreds of years, was gone, like almost immediately. So right now we have two kingdoms. So the map would be roughly like this. This is our Mediterranean Sea. This is the Lake of Galilee, Dead Sea. So we have South Kingdom with the capital in Jerusalem. And we have North Kingdom. We still have it. It's prior to that. And we still have a North Kingdom with capital in Samaria. Okay, that's north. That's obviously south. Okay? So my reasoning is why I didn't do archaeological discoveries. I just read the text, and I read some other guys who read the text. So I think when we are in Isaiah, in chapters 36 to 39, with the story of Hezekiah and siege of Jerusalem by Assyrians, I believe it took place right after Samarian fall. Okay? So that means that another king, Hezekiah, the son of Ahaz, actually, was the ruling guy. Okay, so that's my dating thing. But regardless of this part, Isaiah 7 most likely takes place in, let me use another color, in 734 or 35. And the reason for this is partially is in the text. We have this wonderful word that is translated into English as again. Okay? The thing is, why do we need to pay attention to again? Because the first part of chapter 7 deals, Isaiah gives the news, or actually kind of like talk, to King Ahaz. Okay. So first of all, apart from book of Isaiah, King Ahaz is not portrayed as a good guy. He is kind of, depending what kind of picture we paint, I mean his portrait, how we paint it, his response to Isaiah in our passage when he says, I'm not going to ask for a sign, will have a slightly different meaning. But in the very beginning, we do really have we don't have a problem. He has a problem. And he has a big, big problem. Because his relatives on the north, so he's in the south in Jerusalem, Ahaz in the south in Jerusalem, and his relative on the north, king on the north, plus the guys who are even a little bit northern in Damascus, in Syria, these guys united, and what they wanted to do is kick him out, or basically kill him, and put somebody in his place, that they will have an alliance created against Assyria. Okay? He was not really happy with the idea that he will be killed for some reason. Along with that, he was kind of sieged from the north, not only from the north, but these guys, okay? So we have guys on the northern kingdom, plus we have Syria, okay? And plus we have Edomites, who kind of joined these guys. So they started to press southern kingdom. As the dialogue started to develop between King Ahaz and Isaiah, King said, what should I do? Who should I side with? These guys or Assyrians? I mean, because if you want to side with somebody, you better side with a stronger team, okay? That's kind of makes sense. I mean, it's not always right, but at least it makes political sense. And the prophet Isaiah tells him, you do not need to side with anybody, because there is a Lord, and He will help and provide. Okay? While Ahaz says, okay, time break, let me think about that. While he kind of said that he will have a time break, we have it in historical books, in Chronicles and in Kings. He actually, what he did, he decided to side with the Assyrians. So he sent a letter to the king of Assyria, I am your slave, please have mercy on me, and blah, blah, blah. And what happened is, in 734, Tiglath-Pileser actually gathered a bunch of troops and started to move south from Assyria this way. So he really, okay, I'm not going to use the word that I want to say. Okay, he beat up some guys, he kind of helped him. He took some good gifts from Jerusalem. So by the 732, these guys were not as powerful as they thought. So And that will have an important meaning for our today's passage. Okay? So in historical setting, that's where we are. Okay? Now, let's go to the text itself. Again, so that's why again, after he sent a letter, actually, Lord addresses him. There are two ways to understand it. Maybe he addressed him personally, because even regardless of his wickedness and sinfulness, Lord appears even to sinful people. And sometimes they really clearly hear and get it. That's the Lord. As we watched one of the TV shows yesterday, and it was very interesting. The character says, I was hating God. I was so, like, it was awful what God did to me. And then she says, but then I realized I cannot hate God unless I believe in Him. And then everything flips. And, so on and so forth. It's irrelevant to our text. But the thing is, sometimes Lord talks to people who do not really like Him whatsoever. Okay? And the only problem with people is not those who hate Him, but the real problematic people is those who try to pretend that He doesn't exist whatsoever. Okay? We're not going to go there. Again, Lord spoke to Ahaz. Or He spoke to Ahaz via or through Isaiah. Okay? Possible too. I don't have a clear answer for that. So you can interpret it either or. So, however, he addressed Ahaz and he said, ask for a sign of Lord your God. Okay? So we assume that still Ahaz, as a king of southern kingdom, temple is still there. Okay? The temple will fall in about 150 years from now. From our passage. So, we assume that king believes in Yahweh. He is God. He's personal God. It's not only the God of your nation, and we will have this phrase, that your house, your father's house, and so on and so forth. It's your God. Okay? You can ask Him for a sign. And that sign, verse 10, can be as deep as Sheol. Okay, and some people think it's hell. Okay, the Sheol in what we call Old Testament is not necessarily hellish as what we believe. It's the deepest parts. Okay, in New Testament we have those phrases. If you remember the parable about Abram and Lazarus, not Abram, the rich guy and the poor guy Lazarus, they both end up in Sheol place. Okay, so it's not necessarily for bad people only. It's for those who die. Okay, so but it can be as deep as Sheol or as high as ESV puts it as heaven. It's actually the highest thing. So ask whatever you want to ask. Now, but Ahaz said, I will not ask, and then he gives a great pious reason. So I do not want to put the Lord to test. Sounds great. Remember, that's what Jesus basically said when He was on the temple roof. When devil said, okay, jump down. And if you are the Son of God, we have a promise. We have heard the promise, and you know the promise, that angels will carry you, and so on and so forth. And so David quotes Psalm 91. And things like that. Most of the theologians with whom I agree think that he did not ask for a sign for a different reason. The reason is, if you ask for a sign and it will be given to you, you have to stick to this kind of agreement thing. He did not want to have any agreements with the Lord at this moment. He wants to have some freedom for maneuvering. Okay? Then, and he said, okay, so he said, most likely it's either Lord or Isaiah, or Lord through Isaiah. Now hear them, the house of David. Is it too little for you to weary man that you want to weary God also? Okay? So if Lord, yes, it is not a great idea to put the Lord to test on your own account. But if Lord tells you to ask for a sign, you better ask for a sign. Okay? It is as disobedient as ask for a sign without permission. It is same disobedient not to ask for a sign if you have been told to ask for a sign. Okay? So, if you don't want to ask for a sign, I will provide you a sign and I will let you know what is this. Okay? Therefore, as we had a great insight on today's sermon, Lord will give you a sign himself. Okay? We do not have it the same phrase in ESV. The Lord himself will give you a sign. Okay, it makes more sense in English phrasing. So he himself will give you a sign. So he will himself provide you a sign. And then the Lord is separate from sign. But I think it's a great idea. The Lord himself, the Lord will give you himself as a sign. And that's what we have. I mean, do we see Christmas tree over there? No?
No.
Whatever. So all the Christmas stuff, Christ Mass. Okay, so the worship service of Christ, of this Messiah, of this Word incarnate, that's what it's all about. That's what surprised everybody. Not surprised in the sense, oh, it couldn't happen. The surprise was, now it happened. Finally. We have been waiting for that so many years. Sure, so many years. I mean, if that promise was given 734 years BC, they have been waiting for that 734 years. Now it is fulfilled. Awesome. I mean, it's pretty powerful. So the cool thing is, so the Lord will give himself as a sign, behold, and then, it's for those of you who love to dig deeper into biblical text, I seriously suggest our St. Louis Seminary, with their, I believe, limited abilities on the internet, so on the technical side, but they have a great minds, theological minds there. So if you go to their website, there are things where they discuss the text. It's called Lectionary at Lunch. And this passage is discussed by Andrew Bartell, who actually wrote a textbook on Hebrew language for our student seminarians. He came up with 3 ways to read this virgin thing. He said, in his presentation, it said that I think too much ink was used to argue about this passage, and it was used uselessly. It's like, really? Shouldn't we fight for this virgin thing? Yeah. But it's not the point. The point is, how do you, it can be a virgin, so it's a virgin, okay? It's not the point of the virgin. Is it a virgin? Is it the virgin? Or you can translate it as vocative. Or virgin. You address somebody. And then it actually makes perfect sense with the verbiage that we have here. Behold, the virgin shall conceive and bear a son. And, see, in English we don't get it. We barely get it in Russian. But it's you, singular, feminine, will call his name Emmanuel. So you, or virgin, will call his name Emmanuel. So it's not about her, it's an addressing to a person. So it's a dialogue with her. So the virgin. with the virgin idea is technically the word means a young woman of the married age status. Okay, she is, at this age. Theoretically, there is a stricter word that defines person as the virgin. The thing is, unfortunately, unlike today, unmarried girls, or let's put it this way, in those good old days, unmarried girls were virgins. It's presupposed. Unfortunately, unlike then, today, if you have unmarried girl, it doesn't mean that she is a virgin. Unfortunately, you might presuppose it, but maybe not. Okay? So that's why, in a translation sense, yes, when we say the virgin, we kind of shrink the sense of the word, we narrow the sense of the word, but I think it's a good narrowing because we need to convey the whole meaning of the story of what happened with Mary. Otherwise, it doesn't really play as much role as we would love to. Okay? So the Lord will give himself as a sign, O virgin, will conceive and bear a son. Okay? And we always have in mind this, immediately. We jump into Matthew 1, and we will. And it's great. Or Luke 1. And this miracle where virgin conceives, and she is, in a sense, still a virgin, and she gives this son into the world. There are two extremes with that, one of them is just to say that she was a reasonable age, and there was nothing really mysterious. It was just, whatever happened. There is another extreme. If you go into Eastern Orthodoxy, what they teach, they want to preserve Mary as, her perpetual virginity. They come even up to an idea that she delivered not on the regular way, but through her side. Okay? We have some, what I want to say is, there is space for imagination when we read the Bible, but my imagination cannot be stretched so far. It's my limitations. By no means I want to, it's whatever people believe, it's their thing, but I just want to let you know and aware that some of the people that you will talk to might believe into, for example, things like that. Okay? His name is Emmanuel. Okay? It's actually three words combined together. Okay? Nu, with kind of like a suffix nu, is either for or with and us together, and El is God. Okay? So it's God is with us, or sometimes you can translate it as God is for us. And that's what he does. Now, I think the more fun actually just coming. And he shall eat curds and honey when he knows how to refuse evil and choose good. For before the boy knows how to refuse evil and choose the good, the land whose two kings you dread will be deserted. Okay? Again, there are few ideas how to interpret these verses. One of them is he either will be kind of like a monk, so he will live in the desert and eat only out of curd or straight milk and honey, kind of like what we have a depiction of John the Baptist. Or actually, very other opposite extreme is he will be in more like eating soft and sweet food, which is in the palace. So he will be like a kingly status. I will allow myself to disagree with both of them. It's not about his status, it's about his age. Okay? When do boy or girl mostly drinks milk and eats some sweets? And infancy, you know. So that's not the breast milk, so it's kind of the time to change from the breast milk into a milkish food. Okay? So within couple of years, 2-3 years, those two kings that you are really scared of from the north and from Syria, not Assyria. Assyria is here geographically, it's Nineveh. Okay? That's where Jonah went. He converted those guys. Okay? It is important, if we read further in Isaiah 36 and 37, their chief commander, when he approaches Jerusalem, he started to talk to people in Hebrew language. Why would the Syrian chief commander talk to them about on the Hebrew language? Why? Because they have been converted. Okay? So, but those two kings that you are really afraid of, they will be gone. And that's exactly what happened. As I said, by 732, these guys do not really represent any threat to southern kingdom. Okay? So, the last verse that we have is the Lord will bring upon. So, one thing is these guys will be deserted. But the Lord will bring upon you, your people, and your father's house such days as have not come since the day of Ephraim departed from Judah, the king of Assyria. Okay? So, important. On one hand, there is a positive promise that these guys will be dealt with. But remember, there is important word in the very beginning of our passage. Again, Lord spoke to Ahaz. And I said, this again most likely presupposes that the second speech was delivered after Ahaz wrote and therefore sided with Assyria. So, there are things that are positive. You will be delivered from them. But if you sided with Assyria, Assyria will come after you. Okay, that's basically the meaning of 17th verse. But the thing is, to make sure it is really, how can I say, it is coming to the most inner parts of him as a king, there are three kind of directions where king of Assyria will attack. Him personally, his people, and father's house. So that the lineage of David. Okay? And we will see how Hezekiah will react to the siege of Jerusalem. Okay? In 36 to 37. Okay? So, with this in mind, let me jump for 1 second into Matthew chapter 1. Because this is important parallel. If we see that this child is given in the midst of this kind of social political crisis, and is given as a sign that the bad kings or threats from the bad kings will be removed, when we read Matthew, and we know that Herod is in place, and what will happen, and we know because we read it kind of like in a sense backwards. We already read it more than once. What happened in chapter 2, when he will kill the babies in Bethlehem and so on and so forth. So when we see that this is the promise, so all of what happened with Mary and Joseph is to fulfill the promise. Behold, the virgin shall conceive and bear a son, and they shall call his name Emmanuel. Then Joseph, woke up to sleep, and, he did what angel told him. We can see that this kind of fulfillment of these kind of prophecies might have some political meaning. This sun is another sign, kind of Ahaz type like. Kind of, or the type that was in Ahaz's days. When the country is in distress, when they are looking for a stronger political leader and defense, who is the defense of the country? The true defense is Lord Himself. There is no reason to side neither with these ones, neither with those ones. You need to stay with the relationship with the Lord, and Lord will provide. Sometimes it sounds too vague, and we want to have something concrete in our hands, something like political contract or agreements, and it's totally understandable. But this is the great. I think this is a great verse in Matthew 1 when we have this implementation or fulfillment of this prophecy, not only on our personal, psychological, or spiritual level, but also in our social and political level. When we have, different parties, different leaders, different agreements with different countries, and something doesn't really fit in our mind, and nothing seems go right. We need to remember that there is Emmanuel, therefore God is with us. And we can side with Him and that will be our wise choice. Okay, questions or comments?